and welcome to Orleans Royal Canadian Legion Branch 632 for Remembrance Day ceremonies here at the Cenotaph. My name is Dan Mooney, alongside Captain Joe McNulty, retired. It's a pretty monumental day here in Orleans, and every November 11th, it's quite a day here, Joe.
Oh, it sure is. We get to chance to remember all those that fall before us, and for for those that were injured, both physically and mentally. Mm-hmm. So it's a very important day of remembrance for us.
How significant has this day become within the community of Orleans? Year after year, the numbers continue to grow with people coming to this particular ceremony instead of going downtown for the big one.
I think it's more convenient. Unfortunately, our veteran guard is getting smaller and smaller and smaller, but our spectators are getting larger and larger and larger.
Do you find that there's more of a, I suppose, a groundswell of support for veterans as a result of just the way things have gone over the last 20 years in the world?
I think it has. I think General Rick Hillier, when he started the Wear with Red on Fridays, and he was a very popular Chief of Defense Staff, and he really is charismatic and got the Canadian people in support of the military. Uh-huh. Before that, it was not. And last few years, of course, it's gone down with all the problems that are coming out from the harassments and stuff like that. Uh-huh. But we'll pull through, and the support of the people is always important to us.
Well, there's a groundswell of support here today, and there's young people being exposed to this entire ceremony to just realize how important it is to be here, and the fact that we don't have any weather this year it's 18 degrees and people are really, really comfortable. It's usually raining or snowing or something, or both. Yes. on November 11th, but not this year.
I remember once I was with the Governor General's Foot Guards, who's, as I told you, his 150th anniversary is this year. We were in our bearskins and gray coats, and our bearskins all froze to our heads. After the parade, we couldn't take them off. That's how cold it was.
Wow. There's the honor guard, and there's more folks who have come out to pay their respects on the 11th of November, as has become a tradition since 1919 rather. Let's talk a little bit about Royal Canadian Legion Branch 632. Got its charter in 1979, and this branch has really grown since that time, and really offers a significant amount of help within the community.
Yes, we do. Our Poppy Fund, for example, normally goes over $100,000, and that stays within the community. That goes to support the Pearly Veterans Home, the homeless home for soldiers at the old Rockland Base, a lot of the women's veterans gardens, guide dogs, and the cadet corps, of course. We do youth. We have bursaries for the youth of our membership. So our Legion is very, very intertwined with the community.
For sure. Now you see the Cenotaph in behind the honor guard there. This has become a focal point of so much, not only on November 11th, but this cenotaph. It's a beautiful cenotaph, and it's a wonderful reminder of the sacrifices that have been made by so many for the benefit of so few.
It sure has, and just the sentries there, just for example, they're from the 33 Royal Canadian Engineers, and they do it every year. The cenotaph represents a man and his family, a soldier and his family, and the loss they've had. And outlying on top of that is the soldier's silhouette. And that was commissioned when we after we got our Legion, we went and bought this parcel of land specifically for a memorial garden, a memorial park.
And you can see the shadow. You see the two young people, but the shadow, if we can get another look at it directly in front, you can see the silhouette of the soldier.
That's right.
It really is a striking monument.
Yeah, we added Afghanistan just a couple of years ago to it. And we had a parade with just Afghanistan veterans on parade to dedicate the battle honor.
And there you see the silhouette of the soldier. Branch 632 has become such a focal point of this community for many, many reasons. Not only the fact that the Legion has become such a great benefactor to the community, but it's also because this is a hub where people congregate. They'll come here to see friends and be part of something greater than themselves.
Yes, we also support seniors, so we have a lot of seniors activities. And we're lucky enough to have the RCMP Pipes and Drums from the Ottawa Division. They support us tremendously. And that's Brad Hampson as the drum major there. And to his right is Graham Ogilvie, the pipe major. And it's a great band, and they're part of our Legion.
Having grown up in an RCMP family, I'll tell you that I've seen it 1,000 times if I've seen it once, but there isn't much more impressive than to see a cabal of the Red Surge.
Yeah.
It's quite impressive.
Yeah. And leading the parade, that's Comrade Andre Fournier. He's our Sergeant of Arms.
And every year, each and every year, the participation of veterans gets larger and it gets smaller at the same time.
Yeah. We're lucky to have 33 CER on parade with us, and behind them are a contingent of the Cadet Corps.
Must be inspiring to see the young kids that are getting involved in service.
Yes, we're very lucky to have them. It's a school day, and not all of them are out.
That's
why
right.
The numbers are small.
And there's the honor guard from the Legion.
Yeah, that's commanded by Jim Grant, a longtime military policeman.
So wonderful to see everybody get together to pay respect to, I suppose, a vocation or an avocation to service that, especially within the forces at one time, and not that long ago, where numbers were declining in the Canadian Armed Forces, and the recognition of the service to country was kind of going by the wayside a little bit.
Yeah,
that's enjoyed a bit of a resurgence.
A little bit. I can remember when we were not allowed to wear our uniform on the public buses, and not allowed to wear uniforms out in public. Now you're allowed to, and. As again, I'm saying the Afghanistan war, as tragic as what it was, it did bring back the people recognizing the service that the Canadian Armed Forces does.
There's the young cadets. What's this day like for these kids? I mean,
I think
I've never seen any kind of combat, but they're here participating and in something that's tremendously important.
I think it's because they like to support the veterans. We support them with money, and this is their way of saying thanks, and thanks for serving in the different various capacities that we've done. Because our Legion's not just Army, it's Army, Navy, Air Force, and RCMP. And there's no more Merchant Marine people alive in our Legion anyway, so.
Hooray! Advance! Left and right! Turn!
I miss commanding the parade.
Yeah, that must have been some. I remember seeing you actually commanding the parade here on Remembrance Day.
For about 10 years.
Well, I think we've been here. I think this is my 10th year here. Every November 11th, it's such an honor to come back and be a part of this.
And we appreciate it. And to all your viewers also, those that can't come out. Like I know a lot of the people in the old age homes or home for retired assistants, they can't come to parade anymore.
Right.
And so it's good that you're bringing it to them. And this is Ottawa's own parade. It's not the national parade. This is an Ottawa parade, City of Ottawa parade. We have the councillors here. I've seen Matt Luloff and Tim Turney. Mary Francelone's here. That's the only one I've seen. I'm sure there's more here.
Well, every facet of the community in Orleans, very, very well represented here on an annual basis.
Yes, that's for sure. They're marching on the colors now.
To the tunes of the Maple Leaf Forever.
They're not all military, so they've just learned the drill just for this.
Well, it's always an honor to be part of any color party.
Yeah.
Parade! Stand at ease!
Not quite sure. March in the colors.
Here comes our government representatives.
Matt Luloff, Tim Tierney, Stephen Blair, Mary Frost Lalonde.
And they're all members of the Legion here. So is Kits and Laura. Laura Luloff is very active here.
Well, Matt served.
Yeah, oh yes,
so
with two regiments, with the Governor General's Foot Guards and the PPCLI. I was also Governor General's Foot Guards.
Well, you're always going to have a little bias there, I suppose.
A little bit.
Here's a look at the dignitaries, and
that might be. If she turns her head, I'll let you know who that is.
Parade! Attention!
we are just in a bit of a holding pattern here.
Well, they're just getting the parade organized. They're doing the dressing so that they're all nice and straight, and then they'll be turning the parade over to the president. And she's just taken over. Ironically, that's Andre's wife, Lynn, who's our acting president right now. So she's now formally taken over the parade.
Okay. And you've been president of this Legion before. How significant is that role on a day like today?
It's very important. The president basically runs or has his or her fingers in everything. And one of the biggest responsibilities is coordinating a Remembrance Day parade. And so that's if they don't do a good job, it's a failure, and it's just a no-fail situation. So you can't fail.
It's a great shot of some veterans who are obviously very proud of their service, and it's a huge honor to be a part of this ceremony, and the veterans take it quite seriously.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Let's turn
Welcome
things
to
over
Branch
to
632
our Master of
Royal
Ceremonies,
Canadian Legion.
Joyce Bisson.
My name is Comrade Joyce Bisson, and I will be your Master of Ceremonies. In a few moments, our service will begin with the singing of the national anthem led by the Cumberland Community Choir. Please join them in singing. At this time, we ask that you turn your cell phone to off. Bon matin, mesdames et messieurs. Je vous souhaite la bienvenue à la filiale 632 de la Légion royale canadienne. Je m'appelle Joyce Bisson et je serai votre maître de cérémonie aujourd'hui. Dans un instant, nous commencerons notre cérémonie avec notre hymne national qui sera mené par les chanteurs communautaires de Cumberland. Veuillez nous joindre pour chanter l'hymne national et nous vous demandons de fermer vos cellulaires. Merci. In 1918, on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, the guns of the First World War fell silent. Since that day, we have held a service of remembrance for those of our comrades who by sea, by land, and by air have laid down their lives for their sovereign and country. Their sacrifice will ever inspire us to labor on so that those who survive and need our aid may be assured our assistance, and that the country in which we live and for which they died may ever be worthy of the sacrifice they and their families made. En 1918, à la 11e heure du 11e jour du 11e mois, les armes de la Première Guerre mondiale est devenue silencieux. Depuis ce jour, nous avons tenu une cérémonie de souvenir pour nos camarades qui, dans les océans, sur la terre et dans l'air, ont donné leur vie pour leur pays et leurs souverains. Leur sacrifice nous inspire à continuer le travail d'assurer l'assistance pour ceux qui sont revenus et qui ont besoin d'aide, et de faire du pays où nous vivons et pour lequel ils sont morts le lieu digne du sacrifice qu'ont fait ces soldats et leurs familles. Please join in singing the hymn Abide With Me Veuillez nous joindre en chantant l'hymne Abide with me. For this one.
I lift up my eyes to the hills. Where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord, maker of heaven and earth. Therefore we will not fear, though the earth give way and the mountains fall into the heart of the sea. The Lord God Almighty is with us. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows.
Dieu est pour nous un refuge et un appui, un secours qui nous manque jamais dans la détresse. L'Éternel est mon berger, je ne manquerai de rien. Il me fait reposer dans de verts pâturages et me dirige près des eaux paisibles. Il restaure mon âme et me conduit dans les sentiers de la justice, à cause de son nom. Oui, le bonheur et la grâce m'accompagneront tous les jours de ma vie, et j'habiterai dans la maison de l'Éternel jusqu'à la fin de mes jours.
For over a century now, our nation and the Commonwealth have solemnly recalled the moment through our Remembrance Day events. Almost 10% of Canada's entire population of 7 million people served in the armed forces during the First World War. The Second World War provided a rerun. We think of the trauma experienced by loved ones on the home front, the mothers, the fathers who received word that their child had died in the service of their country. We reflect on the grief experienced by the young soldier's wife as they held a newborn baby who would never know the embrace of his father. Yes, on this Remembrance Day, we pause again to remind ourselves that the freedom we enjoy came at a price. It was bought with human currency. We are here to show our gratitude for the more than 100,000 brave Canadians who willingly paid the price, and for many more who were crippled, scarred, and haunted by war. We are here to thank them for giving all that they had so that we could live in peace and security.
Encore une fois aujourd'hui, nous restons solidaires pour nous souvenir des plus d'1,5 million de Canadiens qui, de tous les horizons de la vie et de tous les coins de notre pays, qui ont volontairement répondu à l'appel en faveur de la libération des personnes emprisonnées par la tyrannie et paralysées par la violence et l'oppression. Malheureusement, au moment où nous réunissons, beaucoup d'autres régions du monde sont moins chanceuses que nous et sont encore paralysées par la violence et l'oppression. Heureusement, il y a encore ceux qui continuent à répondre à l'appel de nos nations à servir. Aujourd'hui, au moment où nous nous réunissons, les soldats, des marins et des membres du personnel de la force aérienne continuent de porter le flambeau avec bravoure pour le Canada, en Ukraine, l'Afrique, le Moyen-Orient, l'Europe et en d'autres endroits du monde. Nous sommes ici pour montrer notre gratitude à tous ces braves Canadiens qui ont volontairement payé le prix et aux nombreux autres qui ont été paralysés, marqués, hantés par la guerre. Nous sommes ici pour les remercier d'avoir donné tout ce qu'ils avaient, donné pour que nous puissions vivre en paix et en sécurité.
Parade! Attention! Color parade. Attention! Color parade. Carry color.
old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
Ils ne vieilliront pas comme nous, qui leur avons survécu. Ils ne connaîtront jamais l'outrage ni le poids des années. Quand viendra l'heure du crépuscule et celle de l'aurore, nous nous souviendrons d'eux, nous nous souviendrons d'eux.
Parade! Stand by! Hey!
At this time, we ask that all those who are laying wreaths make their way to the left side of the cénotaphe. À ce moment, nous demandons à tous ceux qui posent des couronnes de se diriger vers le côté gauche du cénotaphe.
In Flanders fields the poppies blow, between the crosses, row on row, that mark our place. And in the sky, the larks, still bravely singing, fly, scarce heard amid the guns below. We are the dead. Short days ago, we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe. To you from failing hands we throw the torch. Be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders fields. Au champ d'honneur, les coquelicots sont parsemés de lot en lot auprès des croix. Et dans l'espace, les alouettes, devenues lasses, mêlent leur chant au sifflement des obusiers. Nous sommes morts, nous qui songions la veille encore, à nos parents, à nos amis, c'est nous qui reposons ici, au champ d'honneur. À vous, jeunes désabusés, à vous de porter l'oriflamme et de garder au fond de l'âme le goût de vivre en liberté. Acceptez le défi, sinon les coquelicots se faneront au champ d'honneur.
The Government of Canada, le gouvernement du Canada, Marie-France Lalonde, Member of Parliament for Orleans. Mothers of Canada, les Mères du Canada, Mrs. Valerie Zia. Veterans Affairs Canada, les anciens combattants du Canada, Mrs. Corinne Schutz. The province of Ontario, la province de l'Ontario, l'honorable Stephen Blais, member of the provincial parliament for Orleans. The Canadian Armed Forces, les Forces Armées Canadiennes, Major General Greg Smith, Director General, International Security Policy. Mapping and charting establishment of the Canadian Armed Forces, le Service de cartographie des Forces Armées Canadiennes, Deputy Commanding Officer, Major Vincent Leroy. City of Ottawa, la ville d'Ottawa, le conseiller Matt Luloff, Council Liaison for Veterans and Military Issues. Services, Service des Incendies d'Ottawa, Chief Andrews on behalf of Fire Chief Paul Hutt. Ottawa Police Services, Service de Police d'Ottawa, Superintendent David Zakiras. Canadian Legion, Orleans Branch 632, la Légion royale canadienne, d'Orléans, filiale 632, President Comrade Win Fournier. While the President is laying the wreath, we would ask that you say a prayer for the branch members who have passed away since our last Remembrance Day. May they rest in peace. Jack Conroy, Gilles de Bosquet, Lorne Green, Raymond Lachance, John Mikichuk, Richard Massey, Donald Mumby, Elizabeth Sauvé, and Brian Watson. The following wreaths will be placed one after the other, and the ceremony will continue once all the wreaths are laid. D-Day veterans and Sherbrooke Fusilier, Mike Brennan.
Was blind, was so
Hong Kong veterans, Dr. Paul Conley. Royal Canadian Dental Corps Association, l'Association du Corps Dentaire Royal Canadien, Colonel retired Kevin Cohen, and Mario Bizier. .410 Wing Royal Canadian Air Force Association, 410 Escadre, l'Association d'Aviation Royale Canadienne, Lieutenant Colonel retired Brian Clements. D&D CAF Ombudsman, Mr. Gregory Lick. Veterans Task Force, Monsieur André Thivierge. Military and Hospitalier Order of Saint Lazarus, Mr. André Boivin. Chevalier de Colomb, Assemblée 2079, Monsieur Fern Landry. Knights of Columbus Assembly 7873. Rotary Club of Orleans, Julia Ginsley, President-elect. Lions Club of Orleans, Sylvie Blanchette and George Papas. Orleans Federal Conservative Association, Mary Elise Wolfe. Orleans Federal Liberal Women, President Batul Siddiqui. National Women's Liberal Commission Ontario, President Batul Siddiqui. Orleans Star, Fred Sheeran. Professional Institute of the Public Service of Canada, Wedan Khan. Orleans Provincial Liberal Women, Sophie Brunet. In memory of Raymond M. Saint-Louis, Claude Saint-Louis. In memory of Robert Saint-Louis, Claude Saint-Louis. In memory of John Hardy, Marlene Frost. And in memory of Ross Howell.
with the foe.
Prions.
Dieu Tout-Puissant, Créateur et Soutien, dont l'amour nous enveloppe dans la vie comme dans la mort, nous sommes réunis aujourd'hui pour t'offrir nos remerciements et pour nous rappeler avec reconnaissance ceux et celles qui ont sacrifié leur vie pour préserver la paix et la justice dans le monde. En silence et du plus profond de nos cœurs, nous te rappelons le nom. Dieu éternel, nous te confions tous ceux et celles qui souffrent dans leur corps et dans leurs esprits des horreurs de la guerre. Veille sur les familles et les membres des forces canadiennes, sur la terre, en mer et dans l'air, qui, avec nos alliés, luttent bravement contre les forces de la tyrannie et de l'oppression. Puissions-nous être courageux en gardant la main sur ce qui est bon, et que Dieu de paix et de grâce soit avec nous. Amen.
Oh God, may we never forget the example they gave us as we seek to be faithful to their example. Give us the grace to imitate them in the spirit of sacrifice and service. Help us to carry with honor the torch of freedom that they so proudly passed on to us. We thank you for the peace we enjoy here in Canada, for the opportunity we have to build a better future through the sacrifice of thousands of brave and gallant heroes. O God of mercy, bring those who currently serve back home safely to their family and friends. Be present with the leaders and citizens of the world so that they may learn to walk paths of justice and peace. God of love, hear our cries which we offer to you in faith, trusting in your eternal love. Help us to be brave, holding on to what is good, and may the God of peace be with you all. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, please join the choir in singing God Save the King. Mesdames et messieurs, s'il vous plaît, vous joindre avec la chorale en chantant God Save the King.
Sergeant at Arms!
Ma'am!
Ceremony just about to wrap up after the laying of the wreaths, and such a thoughtful and poignant ceremony. Joe McNulty, Captain retired, joins us here at Orleans Royal Canadian Legion Branch 632 in Orleans.
Quick, hop.
And the color party makes their way. You've presided over this ceremony many times, Joe McNulty. It never. Every year, it becomes so more and more important.
Yes, we have to remember all our soldiers, and not just the ones that passed, but those that were wounded, and both mentally and physically. As you know, there's it's been a rough time for a lot of the soldiers coming back from Afghanistan, and right now they're going through a lot of bad memories. A lot died.
PTSD is something that many veterans come back with, and they have to deal with that, and it's sometimes it's not an easy transition back to civilian life.
No, it definitely is not. There's the parade commander, Andre Fournier, and the drum major, Brad Hampson. So you're now going to march off everybody. First.
Pipes and drums, drum tap only. By the right, quick, march. Right wheel.
The parade would not be a parade without the RCMP pipes and drums.
It's the Red Surge has always been impressive, and certainly today with the pipe and drums of the RCMP band here, it does add such a wonderful touch of color. And I'm not only talking about the Red Surge, I'm talking about the flavor that they inject into this ceremony. Graham Oglesby, the pipe major, he's also a member of the Legion. A lot of them are. And he's done a tremendous job with the pipes and drums. And they support us not just now, but all the time. The veterans getting a well-deserved round of applause as they exit the parade grounds.
Followed by 33 Canadian engineers, Royal Canadian Engineer Regiment.
And just so fitting that they get such a warm reception on such a beautiful, warm November 11th. It's 18 degrees.
Gorgeous.
Here in the nation's capital, and we see people out here on the 11th of November in T-shirts. That does not happen every year.
No, definitely not. This is the most unpredictable weather ever. November. And there go the Army cadets. The color party led by Jim Grant.
Very impressive, and now everybody will, once the parade is completed, and everybody will gather, and this is an opportunity not only for members of the forces, retired members of the forces, but it's an amalgamation of every aspect of society. When you go into the Legion after a parade like this, and a celebration, yes, and a commemoration of sacrifices made, just to listen to the stories, it's quite heartbreaking and quite heartwarming at the same time.
Yeah, it's a good time for the current soldiers to talk to the retired veterans, and it shows a very mutual respect amongst them.
Indeed.
The cadets, of course, don't go to the Legion.
They're a little young.
They're a little young for that.
but they will go inside following this ceremony. The Ladies Auxiliary has put on an absolutely wonderful spread inside, as they do each and every year, and this is always such a wonderful ceremony to be a part of. And Joe McNulty, your final thoughts on the way things have gone today, and where you see this ceremony growing in the years to come.
Well, I think today went very well. I would like to personally see more veterans on parade. If you look out at the crowd, there was a lot of veterans there, but they're not on parade. I hope that eventually that they will come and join us, and we can increase the parade and keep it going. Without them on parade, there is no parade.
How do you get them involved?
Well, we try a number of initiatives. We're trying. It's every Legion across the country is running the same problem, a recruiting problem. But we have the largest amount of Afghanistan veterans than any other Legion in the area, so we're keeping our own. We're the largest Legion right now, so it's a matter of getting these people to come in and join.
It has been an absolutely tremendous day here in Orleans. The weather has certainly warmed things up, and everybody leaving with a wonderful sense of I suppose, satisfaction in that they've come to recognize the sacrifices of generations before us.
Yes, and Afghanistan reminded us that a lot with the ramp ceremonies and
Ladies and gentlemen, last month, Ottawa area landscapers began their usually busy day by volunteering their time and products to honor all Canadian Armed Forces members and veterans. Nick McCarthy of Beechwood National Military Cemetery tells us more about the National Day of Tribute, Service Day on October 17th.
Today's called the National Day of Tribute. We start with a very informal ceremony where it's a wreath laying where we thank different companies for coming out. So the National Day of Tribute itself is where landscape companies from around the NRC or the National Capital Region come down and give a service day and clean up the section, clean up the National Military Cemetery. It was very much a grassroots thing in 2005 where a few landscape companies came down and sort of started doing it. Beechwood has been part of the landscaping community since 1873, so it was a natural extension. There's a lot of landscapers who are ex-military, there are a lot of horticulturalists who are ex-military, so the idea of giving this sort of day of tribute every year for the fallen came about that way. A lot of the companies get a lot of, their individuals get a lot out of it, right? We don't have a lot of time in our regular day to sort of give a thought to those who have fought for what we all believe in, right? Those who sacrifice so much, not only the veterans, but their families and the active service men and women, right? So I think when it comes to the landscape horticulturalists, this idea of taking a morning and just providing service without much fanfare, without needing to be asked is really a wonderful, wonderful moment.
Indeed, October 17th, the National Day of Tribute and Service Day. It's becoming more and more prevalent that you see people like the landscapers and just regular members of our community donating their time and their efforts to commemorate the contributions of veterans.
That's for sure. During COVID, if it weren't for the local companies, Canadian Tire, Home Hardware and such, we wouldn't be open. They kept us going. They helped us out a lot. Local people donated a lot of money to keep the Legions afloat during COVID because, as you know, we were closed.
Yep. And
no source of income. The money we raised from the Poppy Funds is not allowed to go to our Legion. It has to go to support the veterans.
Okay.
So without the support of the community, we would have been closed. And not just us, all the Legions across Canada would have been closed. So the support that we're getting now from the community and from the corporates is vital to our survival.
You heard a little bit earlier the poem In Flanders Fields, of course, synonymous now with Canadian veterans and veterans around the world. Our friends of our Rogers TV show Celebrate Ottawa visited Lisgar Collegiate Institute a few years ago and did some research on a soldier who graduated from there and was responsible for being part of the inspiration for the poem In Flanders Fields through his friendship with Canadian poet John McCrae. Here's more on Lieutenant Alexis Helmer.
Alexis Helmer came to Lisgar Collegiate at the age of 13. I think it was in 1905. And he was here for 3 years and then went on to Royal Military College and subsequently to McGill University, where he graduated in 1914. Apparently, he was a fairly quiet student. He didn't stand out in any particular way, although when he was well thought of. And apparently when he went on to McGill, he played tennis, and he was the captain of the training corps, the officers' training corps there. And that was probably his connection with John McCrae. That was probably how he came to know him, because McCrae taught medicine at McGill. But Alexis was actually, he studied engineering at McGill, railway engineering. He became a civil engineer. That was his profession. And he came back to work in Ottawa, but then, of course, got involved in military matters shortly after his return to Ottawa. He enlisted in 1914, so he was one of the early ones to set off for the war. And he was killed in the Second Battle of Ypres in Belgium. And his death was witnessed by John McCrae, the composer of the famous poem In Flanders Field. We hear it sung on Remembrance Day, and we hear it recited, and young people memorize it, and so on. So John McCrae was so touched by the death of this young man, whom he had known at McGill, in fact, and he was very devastated, of course, and he wrote the poem in view of having witnessed this death. It had a profound effect on him, as of course did the deaths of others in his regiment. Some of the things that we have of interest, we have copies of Alexis. By the way, his nickname was Lex, apparently. There are copies of his attestation papers, the papers that he had to sign for the government, giving personal information when he signed up. We have his student card, his original student card from Lisgar Collegiate, and actually there is written on it, "Killed in action." We have, I procured from the House of Commons a copy of the page of the Book of Remembrance upon which his name is written, as well as the front page of that, which is beautifully illustrated. We have the yearbook in which his picture appears with his biography when it was discovered that he had died. So those are some of the publications that are down there.
What a contribution. We're just about to wrap things up here from Royal Canadian Legion Branch 632 in Orleans, and we're with Captain Joe McNulty, retired. Joe, your final thoughts on what we've seen today?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for Dan and from the Rogers team. This is a great time to remember everybody that's fallen. I know every family's got somebody that's fallen at some time, whether or not it's a new generation of Canadians from their old countries or the Canadians that have been here for a long time. Everybody feels war, and it hurts us all, and it's good that we remember them.
Thanks for having us once again this year, Joe. It's always a pleasure to come and spend this special day with you folks here at the Legion in Orleans.
Well, it's our pleasure, and thank you very much.
So for Captain Joe McNulty and our entire Rogers TV crew. My name's Dan Mooney. Thanks so much for being part of this Remembrance Day commemoration and celebration of the sacrifices made by the few that have benefited so many.